Hi everyone, this is Joe here from Tech&Turf doing my review of the Mammotion Yuka 1500 robot lawnmower with sweeper. This is definitely a unique and pretty cool robotic mower because it has one of the only robot mowers in the market to have a sweeper attachment. So not only can you mow, but you can also collect your clippings and even pick up things like leaves and then dump them at a designated site that you can set within the app. It's all automatic and goes back and forth as needed throughout the whole job. It has a lot of great features, and I'll be kind of breaking down the pros and cons and my tips and tricks for the best use. So you can start off here and see it going to work. It's doing its thing, cutting. You can adjust on the top of the mower the cutting height from 3 to 10 centimeters. And then in the app, you can adjust everything else. But it's mowing, it's sweeping, it's collecting. It's doing things pretty well. Definitely going to get your neighbors' attention and people driving by because this is something pretty special. So as we set things up, first thing when you get the box, you may have the wall mount if necessary. It's pretty easy to get set up. You just plug it in, get it charged. It's pretty much all built. And then from there, you do need to put together the RTK mount. This is important because this is what gets the satellite signal to the robot mower. And you want to make sure you put it in a good location because if it is very shaded, you're going to have some issues, as I did, which I'll talk about. But overall, once you get that hooked up, then you're going to set up your location of your charging base station, which I have set up here. And then you can also see that I also have a weighted plate added on top of the front to balance out the sweeper kit's weight itself. Once you get the app up installed on your device, then you're just going to add the Yuka mower and the RTK to it and make sure you update the firmware. And then you're going to map things out. So you're going to get outside and basically use it like a remote control and go around the perimeter of your lawn to set up the location. You want to make sure you do things right because it's important for later. In the app itself, once everything is up and running, you have lots of adjustments you can make. You can adjust how many times to go around no-go zones, how many times to go around the perimeter, the cutting angle you want to have it go across your lawn, so you can go vertically, horizontally, or any degrees. And you can also adjust the starting process percentage. And it tells you the approximate time it'll take, how many feet you're mowing, and everything. This Yuka 1500 has 1,500 meter capacity for mowing. It has 10 zones it can do. It actually can be adjusted from 1.18 to 3.94 inches, and it has a mowing width of 12.59 inches. The slope without the sweeper can go to 24 degrees, but with the sweeper, it is only 10 degrees. And note that when you put the battery in for the sweeper, it does double the capacity of your battery, which is nice, even if you're not using the sweeper. And then in the app itself, you can then see the progress of the mowing, how it's doing throughout the process, and your satellite signals for both the robot and the RTK kit. Everything is on there, nice and easy from the app. So first I had a test run here of it out and running without the sweeper kit, and doing a good job. Very, very quiet, which is excellent. You barely can even hear it running, honestly. The sweeper kit does add some volume to it because it's louder with the motor for that. But by itself here, this thing is quiet. If you listen in, you can't even really hear it. It's amazing. Does a great job at kind of following straight lines. Can get a little bit wobbly here and there, but overall pretty clean cut, pretty straightforward process. You can adjust the speed in the app as well. And personally, I'd recommend going a little bit slower because if you end up going too fast, you end up having potential for missed blades. And also, I tend to have better issues with not losing signal to the satellite when I go slower. Probably the pace is helping the robot to stay connected a little bit better. I have a pretty shady lawn around the perimeter of my property. And so this was definitely a work in progress to get proper signal. And it varies by day sometimes. But overall, it's working. Here's a picture you can see in the app. You can actually see a front-facing video of live action of the camera. Definitely a little bit blurry, but gets it done. Again, we're outside here, watching this thing mow. Now we have the sweeper kit attached. You can hear the volume on this time. Certainly a bit louder, but still pretty quiet compared to a typical mower, of course. And the sweeper basically is simple enough to just attach on the back. It clips in, clips out, and when the sweeper is sent to you, it also includes an extra battery so it can support the power usage of the sweeper, but it does double the capacity of the battery from 4.5 to 9 milliamp hours, which is nice. And so basically it's a spinning, rubberish, silicone type of brush on the bottom that's just collecting any clippings that get mowed off by the little blades and just spitting it back into the back of its bag. And it also can pick up things like leaves and such. The bag isn't huge, so note that you won't be able to pick up tons of stuff here, but if you set your frequency for how often you want to go dump to its dumping site, that is definitely helpful. So when you have more leaves, you can have it dump more often versus just some clippings that can probably go much longer. You can basically set how many feet it goes before it goes to dump off some of its clippings. So overall, it's pretty much set it and forget it. It does its thing. It goes back and forth. You can see some of the striping. I'll show better pictures of that coming up, but clean cut. Here we are dumping now. So in this example, it's important to note that when you set your perimeters and when you set your dumping zones, it actually, like every little motion you make, it is saved into the app and into the device. So even that little turn I made was saved. So make sure you do it properly. This is definitely a tight location for dumping, so probably not the best spot, but it's worked. It's on the side of my lawn, so it's nice that I can just kind of let it be done. It does it all. Look at that. Pretty good amount of clippings. And it just stays there for a few seconds. And after it's finished dumping, it'll just start moving forward and then slowly lower the back of the bagger back on down. Then from there, again, it's going to go right back to the previous location where it finished or where it was last mowing, and then just pick up from there and continue the job. And so it's pretty much back and forth. Here's on the other side of my lawn now, mowing, and you can start to see a bit more of the striping that's definitely enhanced by the sweeper kit. I will say I was mowing a little bit of a higher cut here. This is probably like a 9 or an 8 or 9 centimeters. I do have a cool season lawn, and I do like to keep my lawn height a little bit higher, especially in the summer into the warmer season, because it keeps my grass more shaded and prevents drought issues a bit better. I just like the higher cut for striping as well. But I will say at the higher heights, it can get a little shaggy, so you're best off with a little bit lower height of cut. The device will automatically go back and charge when it reaches 20% battery, and it charges to about 80% and goes back out there. Now you will notice in the app it tells you how your satellite signal is doing, both for the robot and for the RTK system. And for me, I would lose signal every so often because of shade and my trees around me, and even if it's a cloudy day. So it basically will use its camera to try to continue going for a little bit, and then it will pause and wait for signal if need be. I also had an issue where the sweeper kit would get grass stuck around the sides of the sweeper, and that would be frustrating. It would basically say overload on the super mower, and it would just have issues, and I'd have to go and unclog that. So work in progress there, but nothing too terrible. I did set up a couple different dumping zones, and one of them I did actually under a porch area, so I could just collect the clippings in a little bit of a tarp and then dump them into the woods. The clippings are pretty small and nicely clean cut for the most part. It is tiny blades under there, so don't expect this to be the same as a rotary mower, but the blades can be flipped or replaced as needed, and you want to just make sure that stays clean. I did have an issue where the bagger was dumping clippings, so I actually made my own little attachment here that was just the bottom of a door draft stopper that was made of plastic, and by attaching that, it helped prevent the clippings from falling out of the bag. Just to compare the stripes here, you can kind of get a feel for them without the sweeper and now with the sweeper. Definitely better with the sweeper. Still working on the width to make it to be the best stripes, but this cat's admiring it, so I think I'm doing a pretty good job. But overall, definitely a nice clean cut for the most part, assuming you're mowing frequently. It can get a little shaggy again with the higher heights of cut, so lower heights are a bit better, and mowing frequently tends to be the best way to go. So you're cutting off just a little bit at a time. You don't want to be mowing this like once a week where you're cutting off an inch of the grass. You want to be mowing off small clippings. But all in all, I think it's a great, excellent robotic lawnmower. The sweeper kit is such an amazing, unique feature that is different than anything else in the market. This does not need a perimeter wire like some of the older robot mowers. And although at times it does have a little bit of frustrations with the glitches and you almost feel like you're in a beta test, luckily the support staff is pretty good about updating things, and there's been a lot of firmware updates, and they continue to push out new updates frequently. And so I feel like it's continuing to get better and better. And as time goes on, hopefully it'll be suitable for a lot of consumers, homeowners. I'm impressed with it. I still do take out my regular mower every so often to get a really good clean cut if I need to pick up some longer clippings or more debris. But overall, I think it's a pretty exciting device, and I definitely recommend it. This is the Mammotion Yuka 1500.